Here we have a 2020 Ford Ranger. It's fitted with the 2 litre bi-turbo diesel engine and it's got roughly 50,000 miles on the clock. Right, as part of the service I'm going to be doing on this Ranger today, I'll be changing the oil and filter. And as with all vehicles, I change oil and filter on. I like to loosen or remove the filler cap and pull the dipstick. That just allows the air to go back into the engine as you're draining the oil out the bottom, and it should come out a bit smoother. Right, a bit of a tricky one this, because I can't put the vehicle all the way up on my ramp. It's a bit too big and heavy, to be honest, so I'm just going to lay underneath. I've got a metal belly pan or under tray to remove here to access the sump area. So I'm just going to go ahead and take out the 4 15mm bolts there. So the sump plug on this is a 13mm head size. So I tend to use a single hex socket. It just reduces the chances of slipping. There's nothing wrong with using a spanner, and this is actually a little bit overkill, a 1/2 inch drive, but it's just that little bit longer to gain access. So I'm going to crawl back underneath and get the plug out. Right, I've got the socket in place. Just going to crack this loose. Engine's warm, it's not too hot, so hopefully it's not going to come out too fast and splash everywhere. That's missing the drainer. I've got a feeling this is going to get messy. Yeah, in fact I'm going to put a glove on for this, I think. Gone down to the smaller 3/8 drive ratchet actually. It's going to be a little bit easier to manoeuvre. Typically it feels like there's going to be quite a bit of resistance there all the way out. I don't think I'm going to be able to undo that with my fingers. Oh yeah, just about. Right, so this holds quite a lot of oil. Make sure you've got a big drain tin or bucket ready. This might splash a bit. Yuck. Right, I think I shall get out from under here and have a bit of a clean up and leave that to do its thing for a little while. Oh. Right, so this could be a little bit tricky to film. We're inside the passenger side front wheel arch area towards the back of the wheel arch. We've got this rubber shield here that needs to be dropped down or removed. There are 4 fixings I'm going to remove. I'm going to attempt to leave the lower ones in and just fold the rubber shield down. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and one behind that brake line there, 4. So they are plastic screws which you should be able to unscrew, but unfortunately the whole fitting spins. So I'll try and hold that part still. And if these don't unscrew, I'll just pop them out with a screwdriver. Yeah, as you can see, it's just turning, it's not actually undoing. So I'll have to see if I can. Normally you can get a screwdriver underneath this kind of fitting and wiggle the screw out, but it's very difficult access. Let me see if I can undo it now. Yeah, it's coming out a bit now. Oh, that's it. I've just pulled that out with my fingers. Once the screw's out, I should be able to pull the plastic out. Yeah, that's it. I think that's, yeah, that's it. That's the fitting out. So I'll go ahead and do the same with these other three. Oh, that was a tricky one. I'm hoping I can just fold this down. Oh yeah, there we go. So now you can see the oil filter housing, which I think is just a plastic housing with a 27mm hex on the top. So I'll grab a socket and ratchet and see if we can undo that. Right, as you can probably see, I've got quite a long extension bar here. It's about 1 metre long. It's just keeping me out of the way, so hopefully we can record it and see what's going on. Right, so it's a 27mm socket. I mean, I guess you could jack the vehicle up and remove the front wheel, would give you a bit more space in there. This is, I'm going to imagine this is going to run everywhere. I might actually grab a bit of blue roll and wedge it down there somewhere, try and catch some of that mess. I have got a tin as well, just below. Don't know how successful this is going to be, but it's got to come off. Yeah, messy. Right. Put it in the vise, it just makes it a little bit easier to work on and you can see what's going on, hopefully. So this filter should just pull out. Give it a little bit of help with a screwdriver. That's it. Let that drip for a minute. There's one oil seal in here, O-ring, that we need to remove. So put that down in that bit of blue roll there. I've gone for a genuine Ford oil filter, which looks like it's probably the wrong one. Oh, that needs to come out of the filter. Oh. Okay. So the filter's the same both ends. Pop that in there and get a bit of blue roll stuck in it as well. That's it. And that clips back in the housing. Oh, that's it. I'm guessing that middle bit should have stayed behind in the housing, really, but it doesn't make any difference. So I've got a new O-ring to go in that slot there. Quite straightforward. In it goes. So the oil filter, as I said before, when you're getting your parts, wherever you go, just take your registration number and they'll be able to look up the right parts for you. I've gone for a genuine one, which is a little bit more expensive. That's about £20, that filter. Right, we'll take this back to the vehicle and see if we can get it back in. Let's see if we can get this back in without any dramas. Right, I'll get my extension bar and ratchet. You can probably see on the hex there, it does suggest, what was it, 25 Newton meters tightening torque. If you've got a torque wrench to hand, that's great. But really, just nip it up and don't go too mad because it is only plastic. That's it, that'll do nicely. So give that a bit of a wipe off, that looks okay, and we'll get that rubber shield back in place. Right, I'm going to try and get this trim back in place now. Splash shield or wheel arch liner. Right, so I've got the fitting here with the screw in it. You can usually just push the fitting in, push the screw in. It's quite simple. Simple if you can actually see what you're doing. That's it, refitted. Now, as with pretty much all sump plugs, sump bungs, whatever you want to call it, you'll find either a washer or a seal. This one's got like a black rubber O-ring seal. It's a good idea to just check, make sure it hasn't been pinched or squashed or split. Most of the time, these are good to reuse again and again. You can, however, pick up a new sump plug with a new seal from whoever you use for your parts. Just make sure you take the registration number with you and they'll be able to recommend the correct bits for you. I've come prepared with a load of blue roll this time. Have a bit of a clean up in a minute. Did make a bit of a mess. Right, I've got my 13mm ratchet. to go too mad, just make sure it's nipped. Right, I've got a bit of a brake cleaner here. Brilliant degreaser. And it evaporates pretty quick as well. As you can see. Okay. Right, I've got my jug here. Get some oil in this engine. Make sure the dipstick's still up to allow the air back out of the engine as you're pouring oil in. So as I've said, as long as you've got your reg number when you go to get your parts, they should be able to recommend the correct grade and the amount of oil that you need. Now this one, I've been told, holds just over 7.1 litres, a lot of oil, which is quite expensive. 5 litre tub of it, you're looking around about 60 to 70 pounds. So not a cheap job really to change the oil and filter on this. I've got 4 litres of oil in the tub here. I'll put another 3 litres in, just go up to 7 litres to start with, and then run it up, let it settle for a while and check it on the dipstick. That's one of the reasons I haven't put the undertray on yet, just in case I overfill it. But I always prefer to put slightly less in than whatever's recommended. Run it up and check it. It's much easier to top up in small dribs and drabs rather than having to crawl underneath and drain out any excess. And here's the other 3 litres going in. It is important to make sure you get the right oil grade for engines like this that have got what they call a wet belt, a cam belt, rubber belt that actually runs in engine oil. I think half the reason they fail early is because people have used the wrong type of oil. I've gone for genuine Ford oil here, genuine filter, because it's quite a new vehicle, and just want to make sure it's all correct. And the oil grade Ford recommend for this is 0 to 30. It's a C2, so it's a low ash oil, fully synthetic. But obviously there are so many different types and grades on the market, you have to be careful. Right, so that's 7 litres in there. I'm hoping that's slightly under the maximum. All we'll do now, that's in, oil filters in, sump plugs in. We'll just start it up and let it tick over. You don't need to rev it. It's not a good idea to rev an engine as soon as you start it. Oh, particularly one that's been drained of oil, because it can take a little while for it to build up pressure, draw the new oil up. So the oil pressure light's gone straight out, that's good. Just let it tick over for a little while. And that should be it. All we do now is let that stand 3 or 4 minutes and check on the dipstick, see where the level's at. Right, I've got the dipstick out and giving it a clean. You can see there's a little notch there which is the minimum mark, and then you've got another notch at the top here which is the maximum. So we'll hopefully, I'm just below that maximum mark. I'll put slightly less in than they've recommended, so we'll dip it and see what's what. Make sure it's all the way in. Vehicle's on a level bit of ground. Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's difficult to see really, but it's just below that maximum notch. So I think we'll leave it at that. Along with the vehicle stands, obviously the oil will, the residue oil will drain down and the level will come up fractionally, so I won't add any more to it. And the last thing we need to do is unfortunately crawl around underneath again and get the under tray back on. Right, back underneath. Hopefully I got this. No, I've got it around the wrong way. It goes around that way. Right, I should grab a ratchet and just double check the tightness of those. But I'm pretty sure that's done up adequately. Right, that's it. One under tray back on. Okay, so that's the job now complete. I've checked underneath, sump plug's tight, oil filter's tight, dipstick back in, fill the cap in. Just goes to show that not always correct the recommended fill quantity. So stopped at 7 litres there, that saved me having to get back underneath and drain a little bit out if I'd put the full amount in. That's another reason why I leave the under tray off until last, just in case I accidentally overfill it, which I have done before. All that's left to do now, as I always do, is just give it a spin round the block, bring it back in, make sure you haven't got any leaks. Well, thanks for watching. Hopefully the video's been of some help for you. And if it has, please consider hitting like and subscribe. It will help our channel out no end. Cheers.